Aunque será vuelve a cambiar el inicio. ¿Hemos vuelto? ¿Hemos vuelto? Esto cerrado, esto cerrado.
Hi Stanley, just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like. I'll give you a call if there's anything I forgot. Thanks, sweetie. See you tonight.
Te tomaría la llamada, pero es que no hay ningún POSIT. Intentaré acordarme de los espaguetis, leche, cereales y no sé si qué más ha dicho, lo siento. Te guardo la llamada. ¿Esto? ¡Coño! ¡Coño! No me jodas que he roto el juego. No puedo salir. No puedo salir. Me he quedado bugueado. Me he quedado bugueado. Me he quedado bugueado. ¿Qué quieres que le haga? Está otra vez el...
Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
Estas puertas están muy duras, me han dejado ahí trabado. Vale. ¡Oh! Input. Antes estaba ahí. Cerrado. Cerramos. Esta nada. Esta tampoco se abre. Esta tampoco. Vamos hacia la zona del escape. Sí, voy. Voy. Lo sé. ¿Sigue esto cerrado? Joder, tío. Que sí, que lo sé. A ver si ha cambiado. A ver si ha cambiado el texto de la pared. Coño. No, sigue el mismo texto. Seguimos siendo fantasmas, no nos vemos. Vampiros, que diga. Se cierra eso. Esto aquí, que no nos lleva a ningún lado. Así que hacemos el intento. A ver si en algún momento cambia algo. Tum, tururum, tum, 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 turum, tum, 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 tum. Vale, vámonos. Mira. Ahí está la puerta, solo ve. Gracias, crack. ¿Y le podemos dar al botón y salirnos para que baje el ascensor y nosotros no pasemos? Es una buena pregunta. Vale, vamos del tirón ya a la zona del escape. Bla, 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 bla. Y una polla. Que no, que no. Violenta muerte.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
¿Qué? Es que me da miedo, tío.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story. trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Me muero. Adiós, mundo cruel.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly. And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Tengo que reiniciar el nivel. Ah,
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
claro, claro, este es el diseño original. Esto es lo que tendría que ser. El Office Layout. Sin instrucciones. Escoger las dos puertas. Momento, ¿por qué me están saliendo los créditos? ¿Ya me los he pasado? ¿Qué es esto? ¿Alien Base? ¿Dónde coño trabajas, Stanley? Teléfono, sacapuntas. Coño, pensaba que llamaría a alguien. ¿Obedecer? ¿Desobedecer? Hay 4 opciones al principio cuando hacemos la de escoger las dos puertas. Vale, pues sabemos que hay 4 caminos en total, es decir, el... Ah, no, porque mantenimiento aquí... Ya cuando lleguemos ya tendrá más sentido. Mira, mi oficina. El ascensor.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Si hay una palanca, hay que tirar de ella.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen.
¿Cuánto lo necesitamos con el narrador, no? Que lo necesitamos para que nos diga qué hacer.
But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your own
No voy a hacer eso, ¿no?
true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time.
Se ha matado Paco. ¿Y ahora? ¿Hay otra opción? Qué jaleo, ¿no?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Coño.
No, apparently not. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
¿Qué significa? Pero estoy en la 4.17. ¡Hostia! Me salta la 4.17. Vamos por aquí.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Vale, vamos a hacerle caso porque es una zona...
Detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Vale, luego... Aquí estamos en el pasillo de antes, ¿no? Entonces...
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ya hemos ido al boss office varias veces. Hemos ido a la zona de escape, no había escape posible. Vamos a ir para abajo.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming!
Estoy soñando.
This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head
Exacto.
dictating everything that
¿Por qué?
I'm doing and thinking?
Porque es un narrador.
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts. He thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was
Me da
Stanley
vuelta.
simply
Ah,
deceiving
no puedo ir.
himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream.
Hombre,
The voice
hemos visto el
had
coche ya
seen
unas 20
photomaking
veces.
magical stars just a moment ago. How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream.
Despierta.
He closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his
Y nos
stomach,
despertamos y ya está.
the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one.
Y nos despertamos y para casa. ¿Y dónde despertamos? ¿En la oficina?
I'm
Entonces.
through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please. It's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Estoy bien. O no. O no.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone wake me up. My name is Stanley.
Tengo un jefe y tengo una oficina. ¿Y lo de tengo una familia?
Tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Voy a tomar por culo. Sobredosis, ¿no?
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk.
Estaba loco yo.
Although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't.
¿Seguro?
It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
¿Y no llama a la ambulancia? Quiero un entierro digno.